Hello, Booktube. Hello, friends. Welcome to Lizzie Faye Loves Books. I'm Elizabeth, and in this video, I'd like to share with you what I read in the month of July. I had a great reading month. I kicked off a couple of challenges. Well, I announced a couple of challenges, and I kicked one off and got a jump start on it. It's a challenge for myself that's going to be going on for the next 3 months. But I also introduced a new challenge that I invited you to join me on called Oldest August. And that is going on right now. I already talked about in my TBR, which I filmed kind of late. Well, I refilmed kind of late. I do everything late. Being late is my life. But anyway, hopefully that is already up and you have seen that. I'm filming this on the same day as that. It's Saturday, August the 3rd, but we are planning right now for a possible hurricane, tropical storm, something like that is out there brewing, and my husband said it may hit as early as tomorrow. So anyway, I'm trying to get a couple videos filmed, and you probably won't see this though until after it's already come and gone, so hopefully everything is okay. But I wanted to go ahead and get this film so that I can start editing these and get these library books back to the library. I didn't count how many of these are my own books and how many are library books, but going forward for the next 3 months, it should be very heavy on books that are my own because I'm doing this 60 by 60 challenge where I'm trying to listen to at least 60 of my books on audio that I own in physical form so that at the end of that challenge, or when I get done with those books, I can unhaul those. But that's another video. So let's talk about what I read in the month of July. So I read a total of 29 titles. Now, I say titles because not all of them were full-length books. I did listen to 15 on audio, but of the 14 that I read in print, only 4 of those were full-length books, like full-length adult books. And one of those, I think, was less than 200 pages. And then the others were, like there was 2 storybooks that I read with Emily. One was a short story. 4 of them were middle grade books, if you count Nancy Drew as being middle grade, which I think most people probably do. And 2 of them were carried over from previous months that I finished. And one was a middle grade graphic novel that was not one of the 4 middle grades that I mentioned earlier. So that totaled 14 print books. And like I said, you know, only a few of those were full length. So I'm not a fast reader with my eyes. I read very slow, and I do sometimes a lot more time in the morning than I should. Or I probably wouldn't get as much read as I do. And I really got to stop doing that. I said at the beginning of the year that I was going to stop reading at like 8:30 and, you know, get on with my day and do other things. But sometimes if I don't have to go somewhere, it might be 10:30 and I'm still reading. Now, I mean, in between that, it's not like from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. I'm sitting there reading. I have to get up for various chores and things, you know, help Emily with breakfast and stuff like that. And I read to her and stuff. But anyway, I can sometimes spend too much time reading in the morning, but I hardly read any at night because I just fall asleep. So anyway, to break it down by category and genre, I read 7 books for younger readers, the 4, really 5 middle grade books if you count the graphic novel, 2 storybooks, 4 books that I think would just be counted as general fiction. One of those was the short story, but really that could kind of count as a mystery, but not a cozy mystery. For cozy mysteries, though, I read 9. That was the biggest category for the month. 2 books that were historical fiction, 2 books that were nonfiction, and then I read part of 2 other books that are nonfiction that I carried over. One's a devotional book I'm reading all year, and another one that I started rereading and I, you know, carried over into the next month. And then 4 romances and 4 Star Wars books. One of those was not included in the other categories because 3 of the Star Wars books were for younger readers. So that's a total of 29 titles. I did participate in several different readathons and reading challenges. So almost everything I read was for some specific goal. So let me just break it down into those categories and show you what I read for each of the things. So for readathons, Jane Austen July, I got done right at the beginning of the month, because I knew that if I didn't, I probably wouldn't get it done. And rather than participate in the prompts and things, I just picked one of the two Jane Austen books that I had not ever read, and that is Persuasion. I listened to this on audio, and then I watched the 1997 version, I think, of the movie adaptation of Persuasion. So that's all I did for Jane Austen July. And I'm just not a big Jane Austen reader. I'm not a big reader of adult classics. They're just hard for me. I can get the humor in them, but I have to see it. I have to see it, and I have to kind of start over. In fact, I probably restarted this one about 4 times, and finally, well, I don't know. Did I? I got, maybe after I'd restarted a couple times, I got to about 50%, and I thought, I still don't know what's going on. And I started over again. And I finally, and then I got through the second half, and I think I went back again, or I got through part of the second half and went back to 50% and listened to that again. I don't know. It's just hard for me. But once I see the movie, then I kind of get it, and I could go back and listen again and appreciate it a lot more. So I'm just thick-headed when it comes to Jane Austen. But I appreciate readathons like Jane Austen July, because, if it weren't for challenges like that, I would probably just not read anything by her, and then I would miss out. So it's good that I did. The other bigger readathon that went for a couple of weeks in the month of July was the Retro Romance Readathon, and that was hosted by Storm from Storm Reads and Sarah the Bookish Knitter. And they did seasonal prompts. So they wanted you to read 4 romance books, 1 set in each season. And I did read 4 books for the challenge, and I counted 1 for each season. It was a bit of a stretch. One of them turned out to not really be a romance, but I'm still counting it. I did try to pick up another one for summer, but I didn't get very far in it because I just didn't have time to squeeze anything else in. So the one that turned out to not be a romance is Voices in Summer by Rosamunde Pilcher. I've been wanting to read this anyway. In fact, this would be in my 60 by 60 challenge if I hadn't already read it, because it's been a book that I knew I could get on audio that has been in that box of 60 books for a while. So I'm glad that I read it. I have a high school friend who has read a lot of Rosamunde Pilcher, and she was telling me that this author is her go-to author. Like when she needs a comfort read, or when she's settling down to read at night and to wind down, she goes to Rosamunde Pilcher. So I knew that I definitely wanted to read something by her. Now, I was watching Gina not too long ago, and she was saying that there's kind of 2 different groups of Rosamunde Pilcher books. That there's some of her, chunkier ones that are, I guess, a little meatier. Those are not the words she used, but just books that she recommended more highly over some of the shorter ones that were more romances. Now, I think she had this grouped into her stack of romances, but I did not find very much romance in this one. It was more of just a family drama. Very enjoyable, and I would definitely read more Rosamunde Pilcher. In fact, Mitzi from Mitzi Reads and Writes was telling me that she also read this for the Retro Romance Readathon and thought the same thing, that there's not really a romance here. But she said that Winter Solstice is a really good one that she would recommend. So I definitely will read some Rosamunde Pilcher, more of her books in the future. But this one was the one I owned, and so this is what I went for, and I did count it for Romance Readathon. Now, what I tried to pick up, and I read a few pages of, after I finished that one, I thought, well, that's not really a romance. I need something else for summer. I found this in the boxes of romance books that I've been listing on eBay, and I didn't really have anything else to put it with to make a lot. And this is called Silhouette Summer Sizzlers from 1993. It's 3 short stories that all take place during a blackout. And I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. I think I'll just keep this one. So I started reading the first short story, and I didn't get very far. I didn't even put it on my currently reading list, and I'm just going to hang on to this and possibly pick it up for the next Retro Romance Readathon next year. So then for winter, I don't have a physical copy of it, but I read a book called That Wintry Feeling by Debbie Macomber. Now, this is set in Alaska. I don't know that it's necessarily set in winter, but it kind of had a wintry title, so I think I can count it for that. It was good. It was one of Debbie Macomber's older books, so, it wasn't the best, but it was okay. And then I tried to pick up one more by her because I still have this box set of the first three Angel books, all set at Christmas by Debbie Macomber. I still have not listened to the third one, which is Touched by Angels, but I did pick it up, and I did, at the very end of the month, put in the first disc and listen to about half the first disc because I was thinking, okay, I can maybe squeeze this in, but life happens, and I didn't get any farther than that. So I'm just going to put this one back on my TBR, and maybe if we do Debbie December this December, I'll go ahead and try to finish that up then, because I do want to make better progress with that Angels Intervention series. I've got almost all of them in physical form, and I can get most of them on audio, either through CDs from my library or on Hoopla or Everand. I'm not sure which, but anyway, I can get most of them. I just need to read them. I have already read most of the Mr. or Mrs. Miracle books, but I'll probably reread those too. So then for fall and spring, those are always a little bit harder. I'm never really sure what's set in fall and what's set in spring. So I ended up counting Persuasion for fall because as I was listening to it, there were mentions of fall November weather. They took a walk in the fall weather, things like that. So this one can definitely count for fall, and it is definitely a retro romance. And then this one I knew I wanted to read. I think this is book 4 in the Kavanaugh Justice series by Marie Ferrarella. It was published in February of 2004, so it just made the 20-year cut as far as being a retro romance. And I figured it was published in February. They usually try to publish things right at or just before whatever season they're going into. And, February is the end of winter, but it goes right into spring. So it's a stretch, but I'm going to count this for my spring book because I did read it. I read it in print. It was good. I enjoyed it. And there was just no other book that I could get to that I could count for spring. So we'll just go with that. I live in Florida. February is, we're going into spring in February. It's not super cold here in February, so, it counts. The book's not set in Florida, but, I'm stretching it. I know, but it's okay. All right, so that was the two main readathons that I said I was going to do. Now, right at the middle of the month, Tiffany, the Beachbound Bookworm, messaged me that she wanted to do a Christmas in July readathon, and she wanted to end the month with a party and all that, and I thought that was a fantastic idea, but I just could not fit it in. So thank you, Tiffany, for asking me to be involved. I thought at least I could maybe try to squeeze in a book, which is the other reason that I picked this up right at the end of the month, because other than that, I really failed at Christmas in July. But I at least made an attempt, and if you want to go back and watch the Christmas party that they had on Tiffany's channel on July 31st, it should be on her channel under the live tab, and I have not watched all of it yet, but the hosts were on there, and they played some Christmas-themed games and stuff like that, so go and check it out. And if they decide to do Christmas in July next year, I hope I will be a little better prepared. Then reading challenges. I finished up a couple of reading challenges that I've been participating in for a while. One of them was the Triple Top Treat read along, and that was something that we've been hosting in relation to the Killing Time with Cozies group and Melmax Buddy Reads Discord. And I have failed miserably at writing comments, but I have managed to keep up with the readathon. I got behind last year, then I got caught up, and I've managed to stay caught up. And we have now read all of the published books in all 3 of the Jenn McKinlay Cozy Mystery series. The Library Lovers, the Cupcake Bakery, and the Hat Shop Mysteries. So the very last one that we read, now there's another one coming out, I think it's a Christmassy one in the Library Lovers. That's coming out later in the year. But for now, this is the most recent one. It's Fondant Fumble. I can't remember now what number this is, but it's the most recent one in the Cupcake Bakery Mysteries. And it does have a football theme. Two pro football players are nearing retirement, and they decide to invest in a cupcake bakery franchise with our main characters, and it goes from there. So it was very enjoyable. And then another read along I've been doing is the Let's Read Nancy Drew read along with Mitzi from Mitzi Reads and Writes. We have a Voxer group where we chat about Nancy Drew books, and we've been reading the first 10 Nancy Drew books for the last several months. And this was the first time that I had an older version of Nancy Drew to compare with a newer version. And I just got this recently at a library book sale earlier this year, and I had put it in the bag and kind of forgotten about it. And thankfully, I was sorting through some books, and I found it just in time to read it alongside my 1966 version. This is a 1933 version, and this is a 1966 version. So I read them. I first alternated chapters, and then when I got about halfway, I went ahead and just finished this one, and then I went back and finished this one. They started out going along pretty well together, and then it just started getting a little more different. The same basic things happen, except that this newer one had an extra added element to it, some extra characters and things like that. It was a very interesting thing to do, to read them side by side. I have always known that Nancy Drew was updated and changed some, but I had no idea how much. A lot. I mean, most of it is minor changes, but still completely rewritten in kind of different language, different writing style almost. So, not completely different writing style, but more different than what I anticipated. So it was a very interesting thing to do. Now, we have a lady in our group named Janet who has a whole collection of Nancy Drews, old and newer, and she's been reading them side by side all along and telling us about the changes. So I knew there were changes, but this was the first time I had had the chance to experience it for myself, and it was really neat to do. And now I really would love to go back, and I would like to find more older editions of Nancy Drew books and compare. At the time when I bought this one, I got another one, Clue in the Crumbling Wall, and this is in pretty bad shape. The flaps are barely hanging on. That's why I put this old library plastic cover on it, just to hold the dust jacket together, because it's falling apart. The Clue in the Crumbling Wall that I got doesn't even have a front cover, and it only has half the spine, but it's still all there from the title page on, and I will definitely want to read it alongside a newer version of that. And I'll probably go ahead and keep reading, but not right now. I'm just kind of taking a little break, and that was what Mitzi wanted to do. She wanted to take a break after the first 10, and then we'll probably reconvene and do some more after a little time goes on. Another little reading challenge that I've been doing that was started a couple of years ago on the Killing Time with Cozies group is the ABC Cozy Mystery Challenge. Well, you could read just Cozy Mysteries with titles starting with the all the letters in the alphabet, or you could read non-cozy, and I chose to read Cozy Mysteries, and I chose to read them in order. Most people didn't read them in any certain order, and they got done within a year. 2 years later, I'm in the third year of this, and I'm still reading in alphabetical order, but I love a challenge. And so I read actually 3 books, but only 2 count for the challenge, because I was up to S, and I had been wanting to read The Secret Book in Scone Society. This is by Ellery Adams, and I realized I missed the discussion of this because Hannah from the Teacher's TBR, her book club, read this also, and they had a live discussion, and I'm standing here realizing that I totally missed it. I got to go back and watch that, because I really enjoyed the book, and I want to, hear what they had to say about it, and, maybe I can comment to it. So this was for S. And then for T, I was up to the second book in the Lucy Stone Mysteries by Leslie Meier. Now, I've read at least one other one farther down in the series, but I also had read the first book, Mistletoe Murder, several years ago, and that was before they were on audio or on Hoopla or anything, and I had read this in print. And so now, I think almost the whole series is on audio on Hoopla, and I could have just jumped straight into this, but it had been so many years since I had read this one that I thought, you know what, I may as well just go ahead and listen to this again. They're not long books. So I went ahead and checked this out on Hoopla, listened to it, and then I listened to book 2, which is Tippy Toe Murder, and I could not figure out what was Tippy Toe. Well, it was about her daughter in a ballet class, and all the different things with that. So that's what the Tippy Toe was referring to. Anyway, these were fun, and now there are some people that don't like these. They don't like the main character's husband, and I had not really thought about him being dislikable or unlikable. So now when I when I get to the next one, I'm gonna have to pay more attention, because I just really wasn't paying attention to him at all, I guess. But anyway, I am definitely going to read or listen to more of those. It's not a series I collect. I do own this one, and I think I own a copy of the next one, but I used to have a copy of this first book. It was a different one. It was a blue cover with a snowman, and I unhauled it. I think I traded it in at a bookstore a few years ago, so yay me for not keeping everything. But that's what I'm trying to do with the 60 by 60 challenge, is get some of these books done so that I can unhaul them, because I really don't have comfortable space for all the books that I owned by any means. So the next one I have to read in print, and I'm reading it in August. I already mentioned it. It's Unraveled by Maggie Sefton. So I've already started it, and I'm glad that it looks like maybe by the end of this year I can finish up this challenge. Another little short read along that I'm doing with the Killin' Time with Cozies group is a read along of the Georgia Peach Mysteries by Susan Furlong. We have already read books 1 and 2, and we read book 2 in July. It was called Rest in Peach, I believe. I'll show you a picture here. And this was interesting. It was about a group of people, moms with daughters who were doing their debutante cotillion type of thing, and there were disputes over dresses and all that kind of stuff. So that was interesting. I never knew anything about cotillions or debutante balls or anything when I was growing up. I grew up in rural Oklahoma. We didn't do that sort of thing there, but it was very interesting, and it was an entertaining book, and I'm glad that I read it. So we've got one more for August, and I think I forgot to mention it on my TBR, but I'll put it here. So if you saw my TBR and you realized I didn't mention this, I'll put it here. I do plan to listen to that in the month of August. So I've already gotten a jump start with my 60 by 60 challenge, and I have listened to 4 of the books on that list. I think the first one I listened to was Housekeeping by Marilynne Robinson. This was interesting. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it either. It was sad. I had read Gilead by her, and I really enjoyed that. So I've had this one on my shelves for a while and just hadn't gotten around to reading it or listening to it, so I'm glad that I did. I also listened to The Bookshop on the Corner by Jenny Colgan. This turned out to be more of a romance than what I thought it was going to be. There was a lot of book talk in it, a lot of books mentioned. I didn't really love the romance. It was kind of a couple of different romance storylines. It was okay, but I did really enjoy the bookishness of it. This one I really loved. It wasn't perfect, but I have to say I loved it more than A Man Called Uva, and I really did enjoy that book. This is My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry by Frederick Backman, and now I want to read the next one, which is Britt Marie Was Here, because Britt Marie is like the best character. I mean, you don't like her, and you're not supposed to, but wow, she's a great character. Anyway, this was very good. It's about a little girl who is very close to her grandmother, and it goes from there. So anyway, I highly recommend that one. This last one I finished up on the last day of the month. It's called When in Doubt by Emily Hemmer, and this is one my sister sent to me. She indicated on the little note here that she enjoyed it. She had also loaned it to our sister-in-law. It must have been several years ago now, because our sister-in-law has passed away. But they apparently both really enjoyed it, and I just didn't. There was some foul language in it. I mean, not a lot compared to some books I've read, but enough that I noticed it. It also turned out to be kind of more of a romance than anything. And generally, you know, modern day romances have more sex in them than I care to read about. This one was, for the most part, not graphic or anything. I just, you know, I hate to see people getting ahead of themselves. I didn't hate it, but I'm not gonna, you know, super recommend it to you. It wasn't horrible. It was cute at times, but I didn't love it. All right, the last few things I want to share with you are things I read just because I wanted to. One of them is this unauthorized biography of Lemony Snicket. Well, it's written by Daniel Handler, who is Lemony Snicket. This book was so ridiculously absurd. It's a companion book to the series of unfortunate events, and I ran across it when I was sorting books, and I thought, oh, I need to read that and go ahead and put that with my series because I need to get those listed on eBay. I own all 13 of the series of unfortunate events, and this would be a good companion book. So I wanted to go ahead and read it. I squeezed it in right near the end of the month, and it was hilarious. It was just really, really funny. Don't read it unless you've read Series of Unfortunate Events, because it will make even less sense than, because it doesn't make a lot of sense even if you read the series, but it's just a hoot. And I read 4 Star Wars books. Only one of them was an adult book that I've had on my shelves for 40 plus years, and that is the 3rd one of the original Han Solo adventures, Han Solo and the Lost Legacy. I got these books when I was in college at a book sale, and I'm so happy that I have finally read them. This was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then I don't own a copy of the novelization of The Empire Strikes Back. So I read this on ebook. I actually read 2 ebooks in the month of July. Who am I? I'm just not an ebook reader, but I read 2. Mainly because I put the physical copy on hold. There's only 1 physical copy in my whole county library system. And it was checked out, and I thought, I don't know how long this person's going to be. Well, it's still checked out. I couldn't even get it for this video, but I did check it out on Hoopla on ebook, and I read it. So now I've read the full-length version of The Empire Strikes Back and the junior novelization, and then I also read to Emily the Little Golden Book of The Empire Strikes Back. So yay, now that I've read all the Empire Strikes Back things, for August I'm reading Return of the Jedi, reading all the things for, you know, each of the 3 levels of Return of the Jedi. But in the month of July, I also picked up the next Jedi Academy book. Now, the first 3 were written by a different author, and the rest of the series is written by this author. I'm not going to attempt this last name, but the first name is Jarrett, and this author wrote from this book 4 through to the end of the series. And I don't know if it's still being written or not, but the first 3 books were about one class, and it took them all through middle school. So this starts a new class, hence the title, a new class, new characters, new kids, but it's still the same teachers, Yoda's there, all of that. This is set like pre-Star Wars movies, before the Jedis were killed off and the survivors had to go into hiding or anything like that. And it's really cute. I wasn't sure if I would enjoy book 4 as much as the first 3, but it was really good. I think they were both equally good, and I'm looking forward to continuing on with the series. So I didn't get finished with all of the cozy mysteries that I read. I am happy to say I finally finished this. Y'all, I started this in March for March Mystery Madness, for, I think, Fancy Dress on the cover. I got through about half of it, and then I tried to read some on my trip. I couldn't, just didn't have time. And then I don't think I ever picked it up again after that. And it was languishing on my currently reading list on Goodreads, and I was tired of seeing it there, and I thought, I am going to finish this book. So I did, and it was fine. I didn't really enjoy the first half because there was a lot of foul language and, you know, a lot of the F word, which I don't really want in a cozy mystery. But, you know, once I picked it back up, I knew that that was there, and I thought, okay, I just need to get through this book. Well, it was an enjoyable mystery, and, you know, I'm glad that I read it. I might still go ahead and read the 3rd one. I think there's only 3 in this series. But just know, if you decide to pick this up, if you're like me and you don't expect the F word in your cozies, this one has some of it. So it wasn't super cozy in that respect, but still, I'm glad that I went ahead and read it. It is Dial Emmy for Murder by Eileen Davidson. If you've ever watched The Young and the Restless, and also she was on Bold and the Beautiful, she played Ashley Abbott in both soaps. She might still be. I don't even know if The Young and the Restless is still on, but she's probably on there because she was one of the leading ladies. On my Kindle, I read Lethal Lobster by Hope Callahan. This is book 3 in the cruise ship mysteries, and I really enjoyed it. This is such a fun series. It is very lightly faith-based. I own a bunch of these on my Kindle. Back when I first learned about this series, I bought several box sets by her because she just kept coming up with these great 99-cent deals, and so I am counting the one I'm going to read in August for Oldest August, because I have owned these box sets in my Kindle for years, and they're super fun. So I'll be reading the next one in August. But this one, Lethal Lobster, was about poisonings. There were several poisoning episodes on the ship. Whoever the culprit was attacking from, they were targeting the captain on down systematically. And so Millie, who is the assistant cruise director on the ship, I think it's called the Siren of the Seas, she is a sleuth. She took the job as the assistant cruise director at the age of 60-something after her husband had left her, and she decided to sort of reinvent herself and got this job on the cruise ship. And her husband had been, or was, a private detective. So Millie had acquired a few sleuthing skills and some sleuthing knowledge from her life married to a private detective, and so she is a natural amateur sleuth on the ship. And I used to work on a cruise ship in my 20s. It was in 1990 and 91. I was much younger. I can't imagine working there now. But it was a super fun time in my life, and I'm really enjoying watching Millie and reading about Millie on the cruise ship and all the different things that I remember, and it's just a lot of fun to read these books. So I'm excited to get to the next one. I think I've talked about all the cozy mysteries that I read, other than the one that I read for book club. And I don't have a physical copy of it yet because we have not discussed it yet, and all of the physical copies are checked out. I listened to it on audio, but it is, I think the title is Death Comes to Marlowe. It's book 2 in the Marlowe Murder Club series by Robert Thorogood. And I would definitely count this as a cozy mystery. Not everybody would. Some people might consider it cozy adjacent, but it's definitely an amateur sleuth, and there is some humor, and I just think that it's a great series so far. So this is book 2. It's about a woman who is a crossword puzzle setter. She creates crossword puzzles for a newspaper or a magazine or something, and seems to find herself in the middle of mysteries. So I thoroughly enjoyed the first book, and I really liked this one just as much. So it is a series that I would recommend. My other book club book I did not like quite so much. This is what we read for our regular literary book club. I only had about half done when book club met, and I just was not enjoying the book, and I had some other things I needed to do, so I didn't even go to book club for this book. But I did go ahead and finish the book. I got it done by the last day of the month. It's First Ladies by Marie Benedict and Victoria Christopher Murray. They also wrote The Personal Librarian, which I did enjoy much more than this one. This is a book about Mrs. Mary McLeod Bethune and the First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt, and their friendship and everything, you know, the struggles that they went through, and all of their work on getting rights and privileges for African Americans. The content was enjoyable, but I just did not care for the book as a whole. There were parts of it that I didn't really need to know, and then there were other parts that were so slow and slow-paced that I was just kind of waiting for something to happen. It's definitely a part of history that's very interesting, but I just didn't enjoy the book. And I just kind of got bogged down in it and wished that I could have had it on digital audio instead of CD so that I could have sped it up and gotten through it a lot faster. That seems horrible to say, but I don't know. I just wasn't a big fan of the book. Now, part of the problem could have been the narrator. All right, I'm going to stop right here. At this point, I will have edited out some of my rant about this book, mainly about the narrators. Let me just try to do a condensed version so you don't think I'm a crazy person, because this really did bother me. And I did mention this to our librarian who leads book club, because most of the people in book club don't listen on audio. So this would not have even come up in the discussion, probably. But the audiobook narrators, there were two of them, one for Mrs. Roosevelt and one for Mrs. Bethune. And they, throughout the entire book, the name Mary McLeod Bethune, Mrs. Bethune, that name was used hundreds of times throughout the book. And it must have been a conscious choice for the narrators, because there were two of them, to pronounce Bethune the way they did, but it was incorrect. And I could not take it. It kept taking me out of the story because I would cringe. And it's not a big thing until you just hear it over and over and over. And then, so the name is Bethune, Bethune, and it's pronounced Bethune. They were pronouncing it Bethune, which may be just a dialect difference, but when it's repeated over and over and over, it was just wrong. And I thought, it's a historical figure. Maybe she used to pronounce it that way. But I thought, okay, I'm in Florida. And over in Daytona Beach, Florida, is Bethune-Cookman University. It used to be Bethune-Cookman College. And I thought, I'm just going to call there. And I'm going to ask them. So I didn't even have to talk to anybody, because the phone rang and I got a recorded voice, a real person who recorded an outgoing message that said, "You've reached Bethune-Cookman University. How may we direct your call? Please press whatever buttons." And she plainly and clearly said Bethune. So I just let it bother me way too much more than I should have. And it just kept taking me out of the story. So long story short, the narrators bothered me. And I didn't love the book anyway, so there you have it. Now, I did read 2 Reacher titles. I listened to Worth Dying For on audio. This is book 14 or 15. I've lost track. This was really good. And then on Goodreads, it listed a short story as a 0.5 that came after that. And so I checked this out again. This is called No Middle Name. This is a book of short stories that are all Reacher stories. And so I found the title in it, which is called Second Son. And I did not read this whole book. I just read the title called Second Son. So this is really more of a story about Reacher as a kid, but I guess it was 0.5 after this one because I'm reading a publication order as opposed to timeline order. Timeline order, it would have come earlier than probably one of the first things because it depicts Reacher as a kid. Very interesting, though. It was fun to see Reacher as a kid and see how he dealt with bullies and mysteries and things like that. So it was a lot of fun. I thought maybe because of all my other challenges that I would maybe skip a month and not try to read or squeeze in a Reacher book in August. And I think I forgot to mention this in my TBR too. But I discovered that the next book, which is called The Affair, is on Libby, and it is available to borrow. Some of the earlier Reacher books were on Libby, but they needed to be renewed, and so they were not available. And the last couple times I've asked my librarian to renew something for me, She said she did, but then it still never came up as available. Just decided I wasn't going to trouble her with it again because most of the Reacher books are on CD. But because I found this one on Libby that I can listen to sped up a little bit, I'm pretty sure that I can squeeze it in. So I've got that on hold so that when it comes in, I can listen to that. Then the next book is another short story, and then there's another book, and then another short story. And I believe those short stories are available on audio on Libby too. So I won't have to check this out again. I can just listen to those on audio. The only other thing I didn't talk about yet was my nonfiction books. And for my devotional time, I have been reading a couple of books that I carried over. The Daniel Plan devotional I've been reading all year, and I carried that over. Then for the last 3 months, I've been reading this Dieter's Prayer book, and as you can see, I have tabbed them both with favorite passages and favorite portions and sections. But this one was 100 devotions, and I enjoyed it a lot. I just spread them out over 3 months. There was, I think, 10 days that I read 2 a day. And for the most part, though, I just read 1 a day for 3 months, and I enjoyed that a lot. Then during the month of July, I started rereading the Daniel Plan book because I have started a group at our church. We have a small group of ladies, and we are doing the Daniel Plan, and I decided I would reread the book while they're reading it, and I've also started another one of the companion books on ebook. So those are really good. And I'm hoping that I will finally make some progress with weight loss. I really don't want to stay the size that I am. For my own health, for my knees, and for everything, I just would like to lose some weight. So that is the goal. I also read another little Bible story book with Emily. This, I think, is a portion of a larger book that's called The Character Builder's Bible, which I think is 60 Bible stories, familiar Bible stories. There is like an accompanying poem and a little comic strip that goes along to illustrate each story and a little Bible story. This has 5 stories in it that I believe are excerpts from the larger book. She got this in a bag of books that someone gave her, and so we read it, and it was really cute. I went ahead because this particular excerpt is not on Goodreads. I just marked the whole Bible book, the whole Bible story book on Goodreads, but I put in my review that we only read an excerpt of it. So I read that with her, and then the last and favorite book of the month is something I am so excited to tell you about. This is not much to look at, but it is The Book of Still Meadow by Gladys Tabor. Now, if you subscribe to Sonia from Sonia with an I, she talked about Gladys Tabor in her cozy vlog, and she talked about some cozy books and things like that, and that was, I think, her first video where she mentioned it, and she also in that video mentioned that she had told me about Gladys Tabor and that I had jumped on the bandwagon and bought some Gladys Tabor books and had started reading them. So this is the first one that I have read, and it was fantastic. I've already started another one for August. I love it just as much. This is a nonfiction book. It is a memoir of her life at her small farm, country farm in New England. They raise Cocker Spaniels and a vegetable garden and flowers and all of those things. They talked about, raising other animals, but didn't want to raise any animals that you had to kill. And just so comforting, just beautiful writing about nature, and it's just all the things. So Gladys Tabor is definitely a new favorite author. I got on eBay and bought a stack of, I think, 6 books by her that I don't think I've even shown them in a haul. I did show them. I did an unboxing on the Killing Time with Cozy's live stream one day because I wanted Sonia to see what I had bought, and she is currently reading one right now as well. But I want to start a Gladys Tabor book club. I want everybody on Booktube to know about Gladys Tabor, and I want everybody to get them a book and start reading it. And then I'm going to start a Voxer group where we can just chat about Gladys Tabor and share different passages that are just such comfort reads. So anyway, check out Sonia's channel if you have not subscribed, and also find yourself a Gladys Tabor book. They are fantastic. Now, I think most of what she wrote is nonfiction, just slice of life, nonfiction. She wrote them, I think she started writing in around the 30s. This, I think, is written in the 40s, maybe right after the war. And she wrote on into the 50s, I believe. So just wonderful, wonderful books. I think she did write some fiction, but most of what I have seen is nonfiction, and I just want to read everything that she wrote. So check out Gladys Tabor. Now, let me just add, though, there is a series, a Still Meadow series. This is book 2. This is where I started, because the first book, Harvest at Still Meadow, is out of print, and you can't find it on eBay for less than $300. And I'm sorry, but I'm not going to pay $300 to get a book when there's plenty of other books that are affordable by her. So you do not need to get that first book to enjoy this one. This one is fantastic. And that's all I want to say right now about Gladys Tabor, but you will hear me say more about her in the future. So I think that's about everything that I read in the month of July. I think it's a total of 29 titles, but some things were little bitty and some things took me all month to read, and I had a great time doing it. So let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them, or if anything sounds good to you that you want to read in the future. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a great day. Read a good book, and God bless you.